whatever your political party is, one thing you have to understand is a lot of the stuff that we're sold is lies. A lot of these studies that they like to put at in science is bought and paid for. So many of these schools and hospitals and places get all their funding from the very corporations that are harming us.
All right, folks, it's time for our favorite podcast, Cut to the Chase, and we're going to do a rapid fire mass tort all over the place kind of update. I know maybe you're an attorney out there and you're like, hey, I want to get into this mass tort stuff, but I really don't know what to do and I'm a little scared. Or maybe you're actually a client involved in one of these cases and you're like, I have no idea what's going on with the case. I don't understand what my lawyers told me. Well, here's an opportunity. I'm bringing Steve Smith, Vice President of Business Development for Broughton Partners, which is one of the premier legal marketing outfits out there that really does more than just marketing. They, bring you into the case. They get you hooked up with excellent law firms as the co-counsel and all that. So Steve, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. It's an honor to be here, Greg.
All right, I just wanted to kind of set the stage. We're not going to go through every mass tort out there because there's a lot. But why don't we start? I mean, I just heard the news from the Uber trial, and let's talk about the Uber case, the sexual abuse, what it's all about, and then we can update on the latest news, I guess.
Yeah, I'll give my take on it. And my take on the Uber case is this didn't just start. It didn't start with the MDL. We started advertising for the case back in 2017, just prior for when they were going public. They didn't want the news to get out that they were having all these sexual assault cases. And so the firm we were working with then, we were grabbing the cases, signing them up. They were getting them resolved within 9 months for well over $1 million a case. So they have paid on these cases hundreds of millions of dollars already. After the company went public, they consolidated the cases in the Northern District of California, and the NDL has been going on. But it's a really solid case. And just to sum it up really quickly, the liability at the beginning was horrific. They had no reporting. There was no accountability at all. I believed early on that this new MDL wasn't going to be as strong of a case because, most of the time I drive Uber today, I drive Uber Black, and I noticed that all the cars have cameras. They announce making sure that you're in the right car. That's not the case. Even today, as we speak, after all these lawsuits, the lower grade, just traditional Uber does not do any background checks and does not require cameras. And they know that these instances are happening. So it's almost very attractive for these predators to get jobs. And, women order an Uber. Now these people know exactly where you live. And so the sexual assault cases are still happening. You can have somebody that has a record of sexual assault move to a different state and get approved to be an Uber driver. And they're the ones picking up your wife, your daughter.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy. I think a lot of people out there might find it shocking that this is going on. But how many people are involved more or less in the when you say MDL, that's like the multi-district litigation, all the cases get in front of one judge for efficiency purposes and all that. So approximately, more or less, how many people are involved in that lawsuit?
Thousands of cases.
Yeah.
If you take what's already put in the MDL, what people are sitting on, I would think that, like something to share with everybody. Whenever you see reporting, like say they have 2,000 cases filed in an MDL, and you're thinking of, okay, that's about ballpark of what's out there. That's just what people file. A lot of times they'll want to sit on them and look at statutes before putting them through. I think when this thing's all said and done, it's going to be, two or three multiple of that. And so there are thousands of cases out there on this.
Yeah.
And you have to realize that Uber is more prevalent now than it's ever been, and they have not done anything to protect it. And the reason why Uber still allows this behavior to do, because there's easy mechanisms they could put in place, is because if they did, they would lose 30% of their drivers, and it would give them an uncompetitive advantage. So they're putting profits over people's safety.
Yeah. Wow. Shocking. All right. So let's move on to the next, I guess, hot new toy, Roblox, and the video game addiction. I know people might have even heard about social media addiction and with the kids and all that. So yeah, let's combine all of this. Give us an
So
update on
this
the addiction.
Yeah, this is a new wave, new era of mass torts. It's the digital era. You have, you have the meta, social media addiction cases, you have video game addiction cases. We see the Roblox case, which is a sexual assault case. And there's a new litigation right now for online gambling, right? As they're targeting young people and getting them engaged, and putting them in really bad spots for sign up cases with suicide. So all of these things have a tech basis. Section 230 has always been a big safety net for a lot of these corporations. The first litigation to kind of lead this is the social media cases, and they have gotten past Section 230. And that particular case is primarily more young women. And so it's their algorithm of targeting and just looping this stuff that when a young girl is on social media, it's giving them body dysmorphia, it's giving them suicidal ideology, and it starts feeding that, and they're actually acting upon it. Video game addiction is similar, but it's actually primarily what we see with signing up cases is males, young boys. And I grew up playing video games, so like when I first heard about this, I was like, you got to be kidding me, right? So there takes some accountability, some parenting, but what I didn't realize is these are not Zelda and Mario Brothers that I grew up with and asteroids, right? This is, your a Grand Theft Auto, your Call of Duty has an algorithm. And what it's doing is with developing kids of, 8 to 13 as their brains are developing, it's designed to keep them engaged and it changes with AI to keep them so that they're sucked in, they get very addicted, they get compulsive, and this actually alters their brain. So you can see in MRIs, especially with children that already have neurological disorders, and they've known this. They've spent a lot of money to make this happen. The sad part is there's just no regulation when it comes to our children. We see this already with baby food. There's a litigation on that. The produce that we buy is safe, not what we're giving our babies. We look at these video games, social media, Roblox, all of these things. It's the wild, wild west, and they're monetizing our children's health. The newest one is the Roblox, which is a sexual assault case. And as a newfound father, I've got a 7-month-old daughter. This one really scares the crap out of me. Because if you're not familiar, you can go on Roblox, download it, and set up an account. And currently, they're taking the position that put in all these safety mechanisms, this ID, this facial recognition. They have done none of that, right? You can download it right now, create a profile, and say you're 8 years old. Okay. You can have the profile up in less than 2 minutes with no checks. You can put on every single parental control and then go roam around. The graphics of this is like very, very adolescent. It's designed for kids around the ages of 8 to 12. Little kids are going on there and they have these games called experiences. And you're basically walking around, you could be at school, whatever, and you're interacting with other kids or other people all around. Turning on all the parental blocking, making it where chat's disabled, everything else. There's still ways that they communicate. They can voice communicate. They can send you a friend request. And what we're seeing time and time again is these sexual predators are downloading this app. They're engaging with our children. They're grooming them. They have what's called Roblox, which is a cryptocurrency that they can exchange. They're getting the kids to send them sexually explicit material, photos, and then a lot of times, they're once they get one photo from them, they threaten to give it to their parents and keep them engaging. They get them to meet them somewhere. They'll try to transition them from Roblox to some other platform like Snapchat or Discord. They're meeting with them, having sexual encounters. This isn't like a one-time thing. There are already lawsuits all over the country filed on this. This has been going on for years. There is 111 million daily users reported of 30 million kids under the age of 12. And every parent would think just looking at this game that's a safe space for their kids, how a lot of schools encourage you to download this and put your kids on it.
Yeah.
And one of the things I like to say on this one is I'm not saying that every single person on Roblox is a sexual predator, but I guarantee you every sexual predator has a Roblox account.
Yeah, wow. I mean, this is it's so mind-boggling. I can't. It's hard to process this. But so I hear I'm not a computer IT guy, and I hear algorithm for years and all that. This is nothing. I mean, from what we know about the evidence, this is not like, well, I'm sorry I'm the manufacturer. I'm sorry that this is happening, but you parents should take control. The manufacturers are intentionally designing these programs to hook the kids so that
Ab-
they can't.
well, so video games are absolutely designed. There's endless amounts of money thrown at it with psychologists and algorithms designed with AI to keep them engaged. Have like casinos would pay a fortune for this technology, and it's being used on little kids,
Yeah.
and it does cause brain damage. Now with the Roblox, they absolutely know this is happening. Like if you read any of the articles, Roblox is taking a stance. Hey, we're the victims here. We have these technologies that we spent millions of dollars on for facial recognition. They don't use today. Right now, you can download the app so that they know that there are adults pretending to be kids. They know that they're engaging and asking for photos and trafficking children, grooming them, and yet they allow all these loopholes to get around their parental control. They allow this to happen because it's a big market for them. It's a lot of cash flow.
Yeah. It's pretty disgusting.
I'm
And
not saying that they're purposely doing it for this, but what they're doing is putting profits over people. They're absolutely doing that. This is a
and
common thread with, all these defendants that we go after.
it sounds almost like the tobacco manufacturers, hey, listen, we got to come up with a good business model. What do? Well, we hook our
Yeah.
consumers. We actually get it, get them addicted to our product so that they keep coming back. And
I'll share something on the tobacco. This is what defendants do. When I was a kid, I remember you used to go into a 7-Eleven or something. They would have the cigarettes right where you check out.
yeah,
And you could steal a pack as a kid. So we were a young teenager, and we put a pack in our pocket while we were getting a soda, and we thought we were so slick. Well, if you actually read from the litigation with the tobacco that was in the early 90s, one of the things that came out in discovery was the big tobacco companies actually paid the gas station. That's where they wanted their cigarettes, and anything that got caught and stolen, they would fund and replace. They
yeah.
were doing that specifically to get the kids to steal them, to get them hooked because they knew they would have a lifelong customer.
Customer. Nice. All right. Well, let's move on to something less troubling than this addiction stuff going on. How about Depo Provera? Some people might have heard of that. Um,
Yeah.
Another pregnancy issue, I guess. What's going on with that? And what is that all about?
Yeah, so Depo Provera is a birth control that I would say would be very common for younger women. I know me as a parent, you might be afraid of your teenage daughter being reliable enough and responsible enough to take a pill every day. And so with the Depo Provera, you just get a shot and it's every quarter, right? So you can go to your gynecologist, you get a shot and it prevents you from getting pregnant. Um, a recent study came out that if a woman takes 4 doses of this, so it's just 1 year, right? If you take 4 doses, 4 shots, 4 shots 1 year, that you have almost over a 6 time increased risk of forming cerebral meningioma. So it's a brain tumor essentially. And typically the threshold is 2x. So if you get over a 2x increased risk of something, you've got a strong case. This is almost a 6 time increase.
Yeah.
And so it's a Pfizer drug. Pfizer's made a lot of money off the COVID vaccine. Their chest is treasure chest is full. And the science is extremely strong. We just got an amazing judge in the Northern District of Florida. It's the same judge that looked over the 3M earplug litigation. She is a awesome, awesome judge. I don't want to say too plaintiff friendly, but she moves it very quickly and she's very fair. And so immediately with this case, the big thing to know is Pfizer tried to play a smokescreen and tell everybody, hey, listen, we went to the FDA and we submitted the study and tried to change our labels to warn for cerebral meningioma, and they denied us. Now, by making that statement, if that statement's true, you can't sue for failure to warn. You have preemption, right? They put in the efforts. This is about, negligence. So they make this statement to really scare a lot of the firms away from going after these cases. Well, after looking at their submission, all right, it's complete BS. What they did was there's multiple products that Pfizer has as a birth control. They took this one study that was smaller because there's two. They submitted that and they wanted to put a warning on all their products. But the study is specifically dose based. Okay, so it's not supported for the other products. So the FDA had no option but to deny it.
Yeah.
So right now, this is all going on as we're doing this webinar right in front of the judge, and she's going to be ruling on this hopefully in the next couple of weeks. I do believe we'll have an answer here in October. From all the people we work with, the funders, nobody expects her to rule in favor of the defendants and go on preemption. But that's where we're at right now with that litigation.
Yeah, that's just it's beyond clever. So the manufacturer Depo Provera says, okay, we're going to submit, we're going to pretend like we're really trying to do what we're supposed to do, but we're going to give you like a BS study that doesn't really apply, and we're going to, just throw it in there, and then we know they're going to deny it because our submission is clearly inept. But we're gonna take that. We're gonna tell the world that we did that. Look at us. They didn't even grant us our application or whatever. I mean, that's where we're at right now.
Well, I mean, the sad part is I've been in this business since 2010, so 15 years already, and I can tell you that it's the same story over and over again.
Yeah,
People are putting profits over people, and they will. Johnson Johnson's probably the best at it, best chess player I've ever seen. But they'll throw everything in the kitchen sink at it and to stall and to give smoke screens. And what's sad is at the end of the day, a lot of these litigations, even when they're successful, it's not like any of these companies go bankrupt. It doesn't even put a speed bump, right? They're able to insulate the situation, pay it. They end up walking away making a profit from still doing wrong. So what did they really learn?
yeah. Well, what we've learned recently is what the Texas two-step is all about, but that
Yeah.
doesn't seem to be helping them out either. All right, let's move on to let's go with you just mentioned Johnson and Johnson. So talcum powder. A lot of people are like completely befuddled and confused. That case has been going on for 10 years. They tried to do their own little bankruptcy maneuver, and they even threw in $10 billion into the pot to try to resolve it. Where are we with all this, and where are we going?
I'll tell you, through all of it, depending on your perspective on it, it can really scare you away from the talc litigation or say it's bad. I don't want to get involved. But I would say right now is the absolute best time to get involved in talc. And I'll tell you why. It has been going on for over 10 years. The very first attempt at giving you the timeline, their asbestos cases were the biggest threat. Weiss and Luxembourg nailed them with the verdict, and they ended up getting past Dalbert in the MDL in New Jersey. Very next day, that's when Johnson & Johnson applied for the Texas two-step. They knew they were dead to water. They knew they were going to have to pay on these claims. But if they could move it to the bankruptcy court, it insulates their liability. They'll know exactly $10 billion used for an example. That was one of the numbers thrown out. They can go to their shareholders and say, look, this is our liability, future liability. We don't have to worry about anything. It's called stop the bleeding. It was a very, very strategic move on their end. So they went for the Texas two-step. Initially, it was thrown away. So you would think that's the end of it. Well, they ended up getting what's unique about talc is so many firms took funding out, so their compounding interest was killing them, and Johnson & Johnson knew this. So they went to a lot of the firms and said, look, man, we want to get this settled. So they said, listen, if you file for another bankruptcy case, if more than 75% of the people vote for it, right, then we can get it through. And so they went through bankruptcy a second time. This time they didn't get the votes, right? They missed the mark. There was a firm that has a very large docket that really moved the needle. So what they ended up doing is settling with some firms under the table and taking them out of the equation, knowing now they had enough votes. So that's why they went for a bankruptcy a third time. They got the votes this most recent time. What ended up happening is the judge went on and threw the whole thing out. Now the courts are pissed off at them. So where we sit right now, their attempts, we know they've already offered to put $10 billion to settle these cases. They want to pay. They know they're liable. They don't want the cases continuously going to trial. And now their only option is either settle out inventories or do some sort of global settlement. Seeger Weiss was just appointed settlement counsel, brought in just recently. We've got some trials stacking up on this. I bet everything I know that we're going to see resolutions on talc here real shortly.
Yeah. Well, there are a lot of people that need that. They've been fighting the fight for a long time. Lawyers and
And
people
claimants. A lot of
involved
these
with
claimants
claims.
have been
Yeah.
signed up and they're dying. I hate to say that, but that's what's happening from when they signed up originally.
All right. Well, the next one I want to throw at you, Tylenol. We've been hearing some news from the administration about their position. I don't really want to get into that. I just want people to understand that there's actually litigation going on.
Yeah.
You could share with us basically what that I mean, that is basically the same issue that you're hearing from the administration, whether
So, whatever your political party is, one thing you have to understand is a lot of the stuff that we're sold is lies. A lot of these studies that they like to put at in science, all right, is bought and paid for. So many of these schools and hospitals and places get all their funding from the very corporations that are harming us. So you have to understand it's just human nature. So that is a fact. So way before Robert Kennedy got in his role, right, and there was a litigation going on with Keller Postman and Michael Watts going after these Tylenol acetaminophen cases. I just want to throw for the record, Johnson & Johnson literally said in 2017, we're not telling you to take this stuff while you're pregnant. Like it was blowing up. What happened was they got a horrible, horrible judge. And the judge completely killed the entire case during Daubert. And we saw a similar thing with Zantac, another really great case with a bad judge. You can get destroyed by a single judge in a Daubert hearing, right? And that's what can happen in any litigation. So you always want to look at torts pre and post Daubert because that's the make or break of any case. What's significant is what everyone has to understand because I've been getting a lot of calls on this. Are you guys marketing for acetaminophen cases? The science is there that if you're taking this, that there is a correlation between people that are on it and autism, neurological disorders. The sad part is this case was killed in Daubert. All
yeah,
right. Now they're trying to get that overturned, but it's not done yet. So if you want to try and sign up a claimant today and even file it in state court, it's going to get thrown out. So right now, there's nothing that can be done until this reversal, if it happens, happens. Now, right now, the science is pushing forward. If the FDA gets pushed and they require a label change and put a warning on there, this strengthens the case that they have to get this overturned. My fear is you're also going to have to get it taken away from this judge
yeah.
because you can get this overturned, but you still don't want to be in front of the same judge because he's obviously biased.
Oh boy. All right. So two more, and because well, let's yeah. All right, we're gonna go with two more. Let's talk another just completely horrific global problem of a very strong magnitude. The water contamination. People know here AFFF. So you got firefighters that are have been exposed to the PFAS, and they're coming up with all these crazy cancers. People are drinking water that's just completely polluted with PFAS. Properties are being devalued and all. I mean, this goes on and on. It's not just here. I mean, and when it's raining, from what I hear, the rainwater has it. Polar bears have it. Umbilical cords, it's being found in.
So PFAS is a forever chemical. C8 is the compound, and it didn't start with firefighting foam. If we go back to this was something that was originally designed for army tanks, and they put it over the metal to protect them from weathering. And they realized, hey, why do we have to limit this with this? What else can we use this for? And if you go back to somewhere around like I think the 50s or 60s, the Teflon DuPont Teflon case pans came out. Look, non-stick, and it was very attractive and in every single household. What made that non-stick was forever chemical, PFAS, right? And in West Virginia, you have their factory there, and what they're doing is as they're making this stuff, they started realizing people were getting sick. And so they wanted to isolate and figure out what it was that was causing this. So one of the experiments they did was they actually took a cigarette, go figure, and dipped it in the PFAS and had some of the people smoke it. I mean, they instantly they died. It was this is a true story. So they realized that so all this case started with the DuPont cases, all right? And they were dumping the waste into the water, which was all around the farmland. So all the people that were living around this water, it's going in their well water. You can't destroy the molecule C8. Once it's made, it's carbonate. That's why they call it the forever chemical. So it makes its way into the soil. It leaches its way into our well water, our waterway. The animals, the people, they're getting brain tumors, testicular cancer, kidney cancer, liver cancer, all these different things. The animals are getting deformed. And eventually there was a whole litigation on it. It was resolved. DuPont had to pay a lot of money, but they also had to fund the largest epi study ever known to man. It went for about 20 years. They did a case study of all the people that were exposed to it and monitored them over time. That's what's created what we have today is the injuries that are from being caused from this type of exposure. So now fast forward, every product that we know, I hate to tell you, everything, PFAS is everywhere. It's on your couch, it's on your clothes. You're not eating your couch, you're not eating your clothes, and you're not drinking from it, right? But you have what's called AFFF, aquatic form filling foam, that is used to put out chemical fires. Okay, so firefighters, military use this. They have to train with it. Obviously, if you have a chemical fire, you can't just spray water on it, right? And so what this does, if you're from my generation, we used to go to clubs as a kid. You'd have these foam parties, you know. So, but that's what it looks like. A gun shoots it, makes a bunch of foam, it suffocates the fire and puts it out. The problem is the main ingredient in this is the PFAS. So what happens is they spray all this foam, it can't dissipate, it can't disappear. So then the rain makes it seep into the soil, and it makes its way to its waterway. And we've been using this for tens of years, right? And so where you see a lot of the exposure the worst is around military bases because they have to train with it, use it. Obviously, there's chemical fires there with the different things that they have. So there's three different types of cases. You have the municipality cases. This is the areas where they've had this type of exposure. They're now going to have to spend a lot of money to clean it out, so the defendants are liable for it. You have the actual firefighters that are in direct exposure to it. So they're not only drinking the water, they're being exposed to it dermally through inhalation and drinking. All right. And the science has also supported the fact that you absorb this stuff at a parts per billion normally unless you're around heat. And what do we do when we get hot? Our pores open up, right? And so all of a sudden, our absorption rate goes to parts per trillion. So all a firefighter has to do is be exposed to it one time to actually get enough PFAS to cause these different particular types of injuries. This was handled is being handled in South Carolina under an amazing judge. This is no easy task because it started with the municipality. You have the firefighters, and you also have people that lived around houses where the stuff was exposed, made its way in the waterway, and unknowns to them, they're drinking it out of their faucet and they're drinking PFAS. There are three types of cases all handled under one MDL. I think it was last year, might have been the year before. My time gets a little mixed up, but there was a Florida case, the first municipality MDL case. And on the day of the trial, the defendant settled it and almost got $10 billion for just a municipality. Now we're in the personal injuries phase of it, which is the firefighters and drinking water. And we just got to a judge to have a line in the sand where we know what the injuries are and cases can be filed. So now you can't bring any new cases without a lone pine order. So you have to have it fully worked up and be ready to try it. There's approximately just under 100,000 cases that were put into the MDL, and we're hopeful that we could see something here move quickly.
All right. Last topic, weed killers. We got two weed killers that are front and center in the mass tort world, Paraquat and Roundup.
Roundup, I call the gift that keeps giving. This has been the most successful tour I think that since I've been in this business because it's just been handled in tranches and tranches. They always say that in law school they use Fin's story as a case study of what not to do. I firmly believe that future law students are going to learn about the Roundup litigation of exactly what not to do from handling it on the defendant perspective. So all the way back from 2019, there was a big settlement. They dismantled the MDL. They took out the leadership firms and paid them around 140, 150 in average case value. Then they went to all the other firms and paid them, offered them 70,000, or you weren't going to get a cent from them. Some got less than that. That was in 2019. They believed that they were going to manipulate the system and work some political angles, and they tried to get some bills passed. They tried to make an argument for preemption on failure to warn. Um, they have stalled this thing out from 2019. Okay. But when one of the mistakes they made was they thought that they took out all the major threats first and paid them a premium. What they didn't realize is there were a lot of threats like Arnold and Nicken and Klein Spector that didn't like the litigation at first. They had no involvement, right? So all of a sudden, and right around that time when they were settling, that's when they jumped in. As we know, in 2020, we had COVID, so it really put a hurt on actual trials. We started seeing the trials really take place last year, bringing a lot of power and a lot of threat to bear and really hurting them with their messaging to their shareholders. They have a new CEO, and it's very obvious that this CEO adopted a mess. And now what he's trying to do is get it resolved, get it clean, get those shares back up and move forward. So we have seen already this year, I would say of the 70,000 filed claimants today, a large portion of them have already been resolved. A very big mix in values. We pride ourselves on partnering with the best firms that are available. And so now we have a new firm that we're working with right now that could be in talks as we speak. They're one of the biggest threats that haven't been resolved with. And that's who we're referring cases to. And so the science is absolutely strong. You're never going to find a case where cost per contract attrition rate value is so clear, so from a risk standpoint. And I'll just share that, one of the questions I've got is, didn't Bayer reformulate Roundup recently? So that would hurt them for future liability. They did reformulate it, and they're actually now using chemicals that are worse than glass phosphate.
Yeah.
So it's not safe.
Okay, talk to us about paraquat, another weed killer.
Weed killer. So another case where you got to separate MDL and state court cases, and your MDL just actually got resolved. Roundup is commercial, but it's a lot more residential use. Paraquat is specifically strictly commercial.
Sure.
So this is used on farms. It's very, very toxic. Like it's night and day. You can't even compare the two. Just to put it in perspective, anyone that's, all for the planet and global warming and wanting to, the green energy bill, we all should know that China is the absolute worst, right? And so we know this, right? They put profits over anything, okay? The reason why I say this is Paraquat is primarily one of the biggest shareholders of it is China,
Yeah.
and it's banned in China.
Yeah.
Right. So China and Sweden are the one make people that make this product, and they do not allow it anywhere in their country. But we're the biggest buyer of it. And the injury with this is Parkinson's disease, which just cost us Michael J. Fox, God bless him. He just passed on it. But as this tort's been maturing, there has already been a big payout for the MDL that's getting handled right now. And there are some cases that are being handled in state court, Philadelphia primarily, which is a really good venue. And those cases, those firms are negotiating with them individually.
Okay. Wow. This has been absolutely the most depressing conversation I've had in a long time. No, I'm kidding. That was very informative. And the reality is there's a lot more mass torts out there. We didn't even get to the NEC infant formula. Besides, you talk about sex abuse in an Uber. Who would have thought you're going to get abused? It's all over the place,
Everywhere.
institutionally, everywhere. So it's not like we just ran down everything. And we try to give you as quick information. Steve, you did a great job. So explain, let's just say you're an attorney out there and you're like, okay, you know what? I got to develop my practice a little bit. I got to branch out. All this stuff sounds really exciting, but wouldn't even know how to spell paraquat. How could I get involved in a way that's safe and that would actually, be beneficial to my bottom line?
So really good question. That's what we pride ourselves on here at Broughton Partners. So happy to, spit fire on these different torts, but knowing the torts is just one piece of it, right? How you get your cases, who you co-counsel with, the reporting. You've been in this a long time, Greg. You've worked with all kinds of firms. Right? If any one of these three components are wrong, you lose your money. And at the end of the day, for every firm that's out there, I know a lot of lawyers that are worried about automated vehicles, worried about what the tort reform, what the future is going to be for their practice, and they look to want to know what they're going to diversify in. So my suggestion is talk to me, talk to anyone at Broughton Partners. We developed a group that's called the Consortium that is designed just for that, to give every single one of the clients that want to come in here a starting point they can get into as little as $10,000 a month for 1 year. But what it does is it gives them every single month a call where we go over all the different torts, the details, what we're seeing from marketing, attrition, the value, updates on the torts. The group is pulled together with a bunch of other attorneys, up to 25 attorneys, so they have buying power. And what it does is it gives them an education, it answers their questions, and it gets them diversified to mitigate their risk. So it is an absolute game changer for firms that are looking to get involved in mass torts but want to educate themselves, learn, and also mitigate against as much risk as possible.
Yes, and I am in one of those consortiums, and one of the benefits about doing it, besides getting to talk to Steve every month and getting an update, not having to go reach out to 25 different law firms trying to get an answer here, is that I'm with other attorneys, and so I get to meet them, and we all kind of, group brain power is better than my individual. I know that's hard to believe, but that's true. Anyhow, all right. So, Steve, what's the best way? I'm dying to get in touch with you right now. How do I get in touch with you?
So my email is steve@broughtonpartners.com. That's BROUGHTON partners.com. And then also anyone that knows me, I give my cell phone number to anybody. Please reach out if you have any questions. If you want to refer a case out or you get some information on the status of a litigation just from the relationships I have in my perspective, you can call me at area code 954-224-1733. Any
Uh,
way I can help in this space, please do not hesitate to reach out.
I will be seeing Steve in Las Vegas for our big Mass Tort Made Perfect conference next month. Hopefully, we're going to get this out before then. Thank you very much for coming on to the show, folks. Share this episode. Maybe you know an attorney that's struggling, looking to branch out, do something different. They should listen to this. Maybe you know somebody involved in one of these mass torts and you're like, they don't know what's going on. So they might actually enjoy listening to this episode and get some critical knowledge. Steve, I will see you soon.
Yes, sir.
And that will do it for this episode of Cut to the Chase. Subscribe, rate, review, and like I just said, please share.
That's all for this episode of Cut to the Chase. But before you go, will you open up your podcast app and give us a 5-star review? You can also leave a comment about what you liked most or other topics you'd like us to cover. And please be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming shows. Thanks, everybody. Be safe out there.